Hello everyone, it's been a while, and that's mostly because of school, but that's besides the point. And you can see that I'm a little bit short on time here, and that's why I'm making a video like this. I typically try to avoid doing these voiceover replays, but well, I don't really have a choice in this case. So, going to put this out as a quick video while I'm working on the HE and Heat Shells Mechanics and Strategy Guide. So, in the meantime, what tank am I in? Well, I'm in the K-91-PT. This is actually my least favorite Tier 9 reward tank that I have ever played. And that is why this is only my second battle in this tank, even though I've had the tank for quite a while at this point. I really don't like it. But as per usual in these matches, I'm going to try to avoid talking about the tank as much as possible, unless it directly adheres to what I am doing. And instead, I'm going to focus more on what my thought process is throughout the game. Now, in this game, normally in this tank, I would like to go to the midline, because in the middle of the map is usually the best position to go to for early damage. But I also realize that they have 3 enemy artillery, and there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to get away with that without getting absolutely wrecked by 3 artillery. Now, I try to go to the south side because that is typically the safer and more useful route for support tanks. But then I realized that we have already lost the north side of the map in this Tier 10 battle on Glacier. So, this is a very fast-paced game, so I apologize for hopping all over the place. So, I end up switching back over to the north side of the map in order to provide support fire for those tanks. And while I'm heading over there, I'm looking at what kind of tanks I'm going to be fighting, and I'm trying to determine which shell type to use. I end up deciding to switch over to gold right before I get there, and I park at this rock instead of the rock to the left where the artillery on my team is firing from. And the reasoning for that is that from where I am now, it is very unlikely that the enemy team will be able to spot me. But if I go over to the left rock, which I will end up doing in a little bit, I was running at a little bit of a higher risk that the enemy team would be able to spot me and therefore counter me while I'm trying to farm them. And I will be switching over there in a little bit, regardless. Now, you can see a little bit of the weakness of this tank. I am going to complain about this tank a little bit, which is the accuracy as well as the DPM. I'm only doing 390 damage a shot, which feels very sluggish with the reload that this tank possesses, as well as the fact that this tank does not really hit where you want it to hit all that often. So, now that the artillery has been spotted, I decide that I might as well take his position. And thankfully, I have better camo than the friendly artillery, which gives me a better chance of being able to get away with this position. I'm able to get in 1, then 2 shots into the Permatract VZ-55. There is, of course, a full platoon of VZ-55s on the enemy team, which is absolutely terrifying, and is another major reason I did not want to go towards midline in this game. I'm continuously firing gold here. Now, here's the thing. This ammo loadout that I have currently is not what I'd recommend bringing for this tank. I had brought this ammo loadout as just trying to figure out how the tank plays. After this game, I would bring even more gold and bring absolutely no HE. So I would change all of the HE that I currently have into gold shells for this tank. The reason for that is the shell count is so incredibly low on this tank for how little damage you do that you really can't afford to have high explosive just for certain situations. It actually ended up helping in this game, but I'm just going to conveniently ignore that little factoid and say you really should be bringing more shells that do damage consistently instead. Alrighty, so I'm managing to get a decent farm going on here, and they finally realized that pushing that corner might not be the best strategy. So in a little bit, I'm going to be looking at my map and decide to move towards the north side instead. And I'm actually I'm talking with my platoon mates here. I'm playing with 2 other people, one of whom is already dead. I'm convening with the I'm convening with the spirits a little bit. I'm asking my dead friend what the health is of the guys that are south. And he's telling me that we are, in fact, going to lose the south fight. So that means I'm just going to set up in order to support it. Now, in this situation, a lot of people, what I will see is they will try to push out from the base. In this situation, this is one of the few situations where camping is actually probably your best bet. And the reason for that is the only positions I could push out from on this map are going to be the north side, the south side, and the middle. If I go to the middle in this map, then we have nothing, absolutely nothing overlooking the south, and if you lose the south side on this map, then middle is going to be lost. So I need to be able to make sure that we do not get absolutely creamed on the south side. If I push north, then not only is that risk the exact same, but as soon as I have to fight that VZ-55 from the front, I'm going to take 1,000 damage to the front, and that's because I am in a lightly armored support tank. The only armor it has is on either side of the gun, so the upper superstructure, but it has so little gun depression, and there's no hold downs to the north that I really couldn't take advantage of that. So right now, my best weapon is the fact that I have camo, and the fact that they have to push me. And I know that they're going to be pushing through the south because this is a random, and usually people don't think all too hard when they have the health advantage, which is, of course, what the enemy team has here. Now there's an E100 that's going to be pushing. I'm trying to ask our artillery friend to run away because I really don't want to lose the artillery here. But what can I say? It's an arty player. They will do what they want. Now he's realized that there's an E100 starting to push him a little bit late, which means, of course, that he is most likely going to die. And I am still firing gold here. The reason for that is because the most heavily armored tanks that are left on the enemy team are the ones that are going to be pushing me. And because this is the situation in the game that will probably have the greatest impact on a win or loss, I want to be making sure that I'm penning all of my shots. Problem is I am starting to run dangerously low on gold shells. I only have 5 left, which is why the shot that I will be making in a little bit is a huge mistake. And while I'm sitting on this ridge, I'm trying to not traverse my hole as much as possible. The reason for that is that whenever you move the hole at all, you are negating your camo bonus for staying still. Which means that if I moved my hole from side to side at all, I'm going to make it even more likely that the enemy team will be able to spot me. And that T-30 is now officially within my maximum view range, which means that if he is running a high view range loadout, he could spot me. And I do shift my tank a little bit there just to get the shot at the Jaeger. I end up missing, so in hindsight, it really wasn't worth it. Thankfully, though, this T-30 was crossing in the open, which means that he has absolutely no camo, which allows me to put an extra shot into him. And now, right when I fired that, I knew I was going to get spotted because I was moving as well as firing. So as soon as I took that shot, I needed to be moving. I thought I was behind enough cover to avoid the artillery shot, but I was unfortunately not. So I take 1 out of 3 artillery shots, which is not bad. So again, as soon as you take that shot, if you think you might be spotted in a situation, move. Even if you're not spotted, it's a lot better to move and assume that you're going to be spotted than assume you're not going to be spotted. I managed to put my last 2 gold shells into this approaching E100, and here's where I make a mistake. I don't know whether or not the enemy E100 is using the large 155mm or the smaller gun. So what I do here is I rush my shots thinking he might have the smaller gun, and I really don't want to take damage here, but he ends up having the bigger gun, which means I could have beaten his reload and taken my time. And you can tell he has the bigger gun just by the sound of the explosion, which is a little bit too tryhardy. Really just assume, a good rule of thumb is to assume that the enemy tank has whatever gun equipped that would be most dangerous to you, unless you know otherwise. So for example, in that situation, the smaller caliber gun would have been more dangerous to me because it is both more accurate and has a faster reload, which means he would have been reloaded before I could put in that 3rd shot. Thankfully he did not, which allowed him to miss again from point blank, and I wasted a few shells here. Now my teammate is going after the artillery. It is of course a 2v4 now, but 3 of the enemy team is artillery. Unfortunately, the Jaeger is pretty close to 3/4 health. So what I end up doing here is I'm loading HE. The reason for this is I only have 5 HE and 5 AP left. I know that I'm going to need all of those AP shells to be able to kill that Jaeger, but I can pen and kill the artillery with HE. So I'm loading HE so I can guarantee having the correct shells left for the final fight that I'm expecting for later, even though in this situation I really wouldn't want to be firing HE at these artillery anyway. And that goes back to the point I was making in the beginning. When you have so few shells on your tank, it's really a little bit of a waste to bring specialty shells like HE. Unfortunately, the Jaeger takes out my platoon mate. I take a very big risk there with that shot. It was very possible that I missed that bat shot because I did not fully aim. But thankfully, I hit the bat shot, and it is turned into a 1v2 situation. I am 1 tier 9 tank versus a tier 10 tank destroyer and an artillery. Now, in this situation, I was very tempted to just go and fight the Jaeger. And If the enemy artillery did not exist, I definitely would do that. Here's the problem with doing that, though. If you are in a singular situation where you are alone against multiple tanks, if the enemy team has any artillery left, you want to kill them first if at all possible. And in this situation, it is possible. Because I think the Jaeger was either pushing towards where I was just seen shooting at the artillery. I was not spotted, but that he could have reported where the shell came from, which means the Jaeger could be going over that way. Or if I went to fight the Jaeger in that situation, then all that would happen is I would have a fair fight against the Jaeger, sure, but as soon as the artillery started to shoot at me, it would become a 2v1 very quickly. And the problem with artillery when you are alone is that artillery is always going to be dangerous if they are aiming at you. And because you are the last person left alive, obviously they are going to be aiming at you. There's nothing else for them to aim at. So you want to take them out first because they are always going to turn whatever fight you get into, whether it be a 1v1 or a 1v2, they're going to make that even more unfair for you by adding an extra tank into the fight. So fighting the Jaeger is a guaranteed 1v2. Fighting the Arty is more than likely going to be a 1v1, which is why I'm going to be going around, even though there's only 4 minutes left in the game, to try to take out the artillery first. Now, I was hoping that he was in this back corner because that is where the shell from him came from when I was getting shot at earlier. Unfortunately, well, spoiler alert, he's not here, which means I have to head all the way back around the entire map. Now, my original plan was to follow along the south side of the map here to hopefully catch out the Arty, who I think was going to be hanging out within those trees. But something does change my mind in a little bit here. And that is that one tank gets on cap. Now, to explain why this changed my mind, technically I still have time in a tank that's this fast to continue going around a little bit wider just to make sure if there's anything there. The risk is that because I don't know where either of their tanks are, and the Jaeger could definitely be the thing that already got on cap, that if they both get on cap, there's no way I'm going to have time to get back if I try to risk it by going south. And it's a very lucky thing that I ended up doing this, because it turns out that the extra artillery is not actually south. He actually heads over to join the Jaeger on the cap circle. Now I have a couple options while approaching here. There is bushes to the left and bushes to the right lower road that will allow me to do damage. I see that there is a cliff in front of me here, which dissuades me from going low to the right, and instead I want to take a little bit of a risk and go from above. And I try to line up the bushes as I get there. I manage to get the spot, and I have HE loaded so I can guarantee the reset. I take as much time as I possibly can and get the kill on the T-92. Here's the thing. I see the Jaeger has cover from my shots by using the wrecks of the tanks that are already dead on the cap circle. What that means for me is that I need to come from an angle that he is not expecting, even though it will result in me getting spotted, because I don't have the shells or the time to be able to take my time and try to get a little shell in. And because I have to pen this shot because I don't have enough time left, I'm going to be aiming the shot as much as I possibly can here. I aim the shot and I aim for the tracks because any kind of critical damage is going to reset, even if I didn't damage his actual tank. Thankfully, I did a little bit of both, and I managed to track him again, which means that he has used his repair kit. Now, in this situation, I'm going to be doing as much damage as I possibly can before he gets his track repaired, and I'm just praying right now, please be able to penetrate. And he manages to get the track repaired, which means I panic and fall back, but thankfully he misses right over me. Now, I do a little bit of a dance here, because I'm unsure of whether or not I should push him or go back. So at first I started going back, and then I realized that if I do go back and try to draw it out, I only have a minute left in the game. There's no way I can try to outthink my way around this guy. So what I do is I push forwards, and of course I don't have any gold left, which means I cannot penetrate the cheeks of the Jaeger. I have to go for either a side or a lower plate shot, because this tank is absolute shit. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to move backwards so I can get a shot into the cupola. The Jaeger realizes this and pushes forward, so I push forwards and try to go to the opposite side of the wreck as him. He manages to take a shot, but it misses and goes way past me. I can get him down with this next shot, but I realize I have 2 shells left. So what I do is I get a little bit greedy. I go for the shot on the tracks and don't kill him, and then I can park myself on the side because I already know he used his repair kit, and get a side into the side of the hole for a guaranteed Faden's medal. And here we can see the results I was able to get from that game. With all the boosters and things, I was able to get 25 bonds, 7,400 experience, and 78,000 base credits, which is, of course, really shitty. I got an Mastery Badge Ace Tanker, I got Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, Faden's Medal, which is a very rare medal, which means that I killed the last tank on the enemy team with the last shell in my vehicle. Dimitri's Medal for killing 3 SPGs, Defender, High Caliber, and Top Gun for, of course, getting 7 kills. I ended the game with 6,373 damage and 7 kills. That gives me 1,540 base experience points, and I got a total of 8 medals for that battle. Now, again, there was, of course, a loss of credits because I was firing premium for a decent portion of the time, and that is another reason this tank really sucks. It's a very subpar tank for a reward tank, which I guess is fair, because it's balanced, but yeah, it is a very anticlimactic tank in my opinion. Alrighty, and that's about it for the next filler episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. The high explosive and high explosive anti-tank shell tactics and mechanics guide should be out next, within the next couple weeks. But until that point, thank you guys for your patience. I know my upload schedule has been terrible, but you guys keep subscribing, and I keep getting messages in-game from those of you guys who recognize me, and that always makes me smile. So, thank you. But yeah, anyway, until next time, happy tanking.